For our healthcare executives out there that are listeners, it would be so great to meet you in person. And that opportunity is coming up in June at our 13th annual Healthcare Executive Forum. It is being held in Madison, Wisconsin. It is the afternoon of June 18th and the morning of June 19th. This year, the topic is how to make high reliability, psychological safety, and just culture simple. And not just make it simple, make it happen. Because what we're known for at Capstone Leadership Solutions is taking big, complex ideas and helping them become practical, doable, and actionable ideas that get positive impact. You can sign up using the link below in the show notes, or you can email us at info@capstoneleadership.net. It would be great to see you there. So because change fatigue is real, because struggles with leading change is real, I wanted to take the opportunity during this week's episode to talk about 3 very tactical, practical, usable, doable, proven tactics that you can use if you're part of a team or you're a leader that is championing a change.
Welcome to Culture Change RX, the podcast for healthcare professionals that are committed to creating a thriving workplace culture, improving the experiences of employees and patients, and ultimately unlocking their organization's next level of potential. I'm Sue Tetzlaff, your host and co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions. Join me and my insightful guests each week as we share actionable insights for navigating the crucial people side of the business of healthcare. Subscribe now for a weekly dose of Culture Change RX. Now let's dive into this week's conversation where culture change takes center stage.
Glad to be back with you here today for another episode on Culture Change RX. This is Sue Tetzlaff, the co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions, and today is a Culture Bite episode, which is a shorter solo episode. Today, I want to get real practical and tactical about leading change. Leading change is one of the 9 core leadership practices that we include in the Capstone Leadership Bundle that we recommend to the leadership teams at the partner organizations that we work with in small and rural healthcare organizations. And when Jane and I co-founded the company Capstone Leadership Solutions more than 13 years ago, I don't think we even realized how much we were going to learn and grow in our knowledge of how individuals and groups of people will or won't embrace change and at what pace and what it takes. We really thought most of the magic was in what solutions or standards we put in the hands of healthcare leaders and healthcare employees that were proven to get better results, right? But what we've come to learn is there's a bigger part of that puzzle, and it's how to get people to become consistent and competent in the new, better way, to embrace it, to work it to the point that it gets the better results. Humans are really interesting when it comes to the area of change. Even when we choose it, even when we desire it, even when we might invest in it, we can struggle with it. We can fail at it. And then think about complex organization like healthcare organizations with hundreds of people and maybe all of them needing to do something the new, better way, and maybe multiple changes going on all at once. And you can imagine why change seems like such a struggle. In Capstone, we have a framework that guides the work that we do in partnership with healthcare organizations. And at the center of it is creating great strategies. And then in addition to that, then we have to create ownership, we have to create alignment, and we have to create agility for the success of those created strategies. And creating an agile culture, creating agile people really means the creation of more willingness, more contributors, and a reduction in resistance to change. What we've been able to see in organizations is that there's a thing called change fatigue, And because change is kind of the norm, like we have to change, right? It's just part of any organization in any industry is that there's going to be change, right? We can't stay the same. There really is no status quo. And change fatigue doesn't come just because there's change going on. Change fatigue comes because change isn't done well. It isn't led well. It isn't organized well. It isn't executed well. And as much as there's a step by step process to this that can be used, there's also such a humanness to it, right? So it's a combination of people and process that really makes up the idea of changing well and being a more agile culture and organization, an agile person or an agile team. So because change fatigue is real, because struggles with leading change is real. I wanted to take the opportunity during this week's episode to talk about three very tactical, practical, usable, doable, proven tactics that you can use if you're part of a team or you're a leader that is championing a change. So, the first tactic I'm going to talk about is related to preparing for a change. So, when you know that something is going to change in your early phase of deciding how to approach that change and getting ready to implement that change. So let's say you're in the plan, do, study, adjust model, and you're just in the planning stage, right? A tip or a tactic that I would recommend for you in this phase of change is to anticipate and prepare for resistance. Just expect it. You should never be surprised by it. Just always expect it, even if it's an exciting change, even if it's a change that employees or a team or a department or the entire organization has asked for, just by the nature that it is a change, there will be some level of resistance. It's just human. It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad or negative or that it will fail, but we shouldn't act as if it's not going to happen. So in the planning phase, we need to understand what that resistance is, and we need to prepare and overcome for that resistance as part of our planning. I'll give an example of this. When I was a chief nursing officer in a community hospital many years ago, we were implementing bedside shift report. Now, we had implemented other changes to nursing practice across all nursing departments, one by one, such as purposeful hourly rounding, visual communication boards, post visit calls to home, and some other changes that we called a comprehensive set of a nursing bundle of practices. And the last practice we were adding to that bundle was bedside shift report. Our approach to making these changes in the past, and this one as well, involved having staff nurses from the various nursing units actually be the members of the team that were championing this change. As a CNO, I was the executive sponsor and available to assist and help them as they requested or needed, but they were really championing the change. And I remember as they were getting ready for the training and the go live from our old model of shift report to the new model of shift report. And they were sharing with me the what, why, and how that was going to be the subject of the training during the bedside shift report training that they were preparing. One thing I noticed was that the training really didn't address the resistance that we knew was out there in the workforce. Because through my practice of rounding with employees, one of the questions I could ask employees and nurses was, we've got this upcoming change. What concerns you about it? What are you worried about it? And there were two things as a theme that kept coming up, but none of these things were addressed or even mentioned during the prepared training that the team had gotten ready. So this was such an eye-opener to me as a leader and to this team when we really started talking about actively going out and seeking from those that are going to be adapting and adopting this new way of doing bedside shift report was to actively find out where the resistance was and what was the subject of that resistance, and then being proactive to have solutions to that resistance, have training and information that overcame that resistance, that answered it, and not wait for it to interrupt or disrupt or add struggle to the implementation phase of the change. So that would be tip number 1, is to anticipate resistance and actively seek to understand that resistance and to prepare for proactively in your approach to go live and implementation to just confront that resistance in a way that's impactful and helpful to the people that are going through change and to the result you desire to achieve through the change. Now, a second practical tactical tip that I would like to provide today is related to when we provide training related to changes. One of the things I just mentioned is to bring into that and confront directly some of the barriers to change or the resistance. But another tip is to focus on the why of the change during training and even other communications leading up to the training, during the go live, and after, is to really have some great communications related to the why of the change, not just the what of bedside shift report, not just to the how we do it of bedside shift report, but why it matters. Why are we even doing it this new, better way? Why are we going from the old way to the new way? One really powerful way to think about doing this is to think about making sure that you check 2 boxes when it comes to explaining the why of a change. One box is the heart of it, or the inspiration, or the stories, the really compelling positive impact that maybe can't be measured when we do something like bedside shift report in a new, better way, right? So, what is the subjective positive impact that the new way will have over the old way? So, we want to touch the heart. We want to tell stories. We want to feel the reason for the change. And then the other box to check is related to our head, or the logic, or maybe the objective or the data part of it. It could be research, it could be statistics from others that have done this and showed a positive improvement in safety results, quality results, staff satisfaction, reduction in overtime, etc. So we can have compelling evidence as to why the new way is better than the old way. And when we can really tell a compelling story and give compelling data, so touch the heart and the head of the why, then oftentimes when we're teaching the what and the how, people are listening in a different way. The resistance is down, their willingness goes up. And like I said, you might be wanting to do this early in the planning part of the change, during the go live of the change, and even well after the change, keep connecting people to the why of the change. Because on those days when the new way seems awkward or harder or different, and you want to give up, you want to be reminded as to why it's important to keep trying and keep working to get to that new, better way as the standard way of your practice. So, tip number 1, anticipate and prepare proactively for resistance. Number 2, make sure that when we're doing training and communication about the change, that we're including the why and that we touch both the heart and the head of the why for the change. And then my third tip is related to what to do after the change has taken place. So after the effective date, the go live date, where we say, now we do it this new, better way. We've prepared for it. We've planned for it. We've trained for it. We've implemented whatever needs to be implemented so that this change can take place. But we're not done. We're not done. So there is a reason that plan, do, study, adjust doesn't end at plan, do, right? So we don't plan, do, and move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. We need to move into study, adjust. So if we shortchange the change process, we will shortchange our results. Again, getting to the new, better way, having agile people and agile cultures involves doing change well. Otherwise, we're going to have change fatigue. And most often, the biggest opportunity for teams and leaders and entire organizations to do change better is to not skimp on the study adjust parts of change. So that means after you implement the go live date or the effective date for something like bedside shift report, there is still work to do to evaluate and study the change. Now, again, there's two boxes I'd like to suggest that we have to check here too. Now, one of the boxes is, are they doing it the new, better way? Who is doing it the new, better way? Who is not? So it's not uncommon that some people, in fact, it's proven, it's research that after the training, only a small portion of people will actually do it the new, better way that was taught in training. And the rest will wait and watch and see, or they'll start and then they'll go back to the old way if that's available to them. So it's not uncommon that very soon after an effective date, after training, that only a small portion of people will actually be doing it the new, better way. So we have to study that. We have to find that. And again, this isn't about judgment or shame of those that aren't doing it. It's about understanding why they're not. So what's getting in their way? Is it that resistance that we anticipated? Did we not overcome that through our proactive steps? Are there other things that are causing barriers to the change? What did we miss? There's always something. I mean, there's always. I have been involved in leading so many changes in my 22-year career as a healthcare leader. There's always going to be something, always, that we missed as a team, no matter how great we were as a team in planning for a change. It isn't until you put it in the real world that you're really going to see how it works, right? We're hypothesizing, we're guessing, we're using a very educated and informed guess, but we still need to try it in the real world. And once it's out there in the real world, then we need to see who's doing it and who's not. And for those that aren't doing it, we can learn a lot. So we do need to find out who they are, and we need to understand what's getting in their way. And that becomes maybe some of the adjustments, some of the tweaks, some of the re education that we need to do to make the change successful. So that's one box we need to check: who's doing it and who's not. And for those that are doing it, we also need to, one, celebrate them, right? And understand from them what's working for them. Like, how are they making it work? Because some of the things we can learn from them as to what barriers they bumped up against, but they were able to overcome them, we can shift those lessons as well to those that aren't doing it or are bumping up against barriers and haven't figured out how to overcome them. So, those two audiences, those that are doing it and not doing it the new, better way after the effective date, there's so much value in understanding how it's going for them and what lessons we can grab. And again, what stories we can get more compelling whys and stories from those that are doing it the new, better way and finding success and positive outcomes with it. That can be some of the compelling why that really continues to motivate those that still need to make the change. But the second box we also need to check in the study adjust phase of a change is related to what are those results we're actually getting post change. So if we expected certain things to get better, like certain results to improve, what's happening with those results? Again, this is going to be impacted by that first box we checked: who's doing it, who's not, and do we have enough people doing it the new, better way that we can expect the results to be changing? But what if you have a lot of people doing it the new, better way and the results aren't moving? That's offering you up information about something again that might have been missed. And maybe the results are getting better, but not to the highest level that you aimed for. And so you know there's still work to do. Now, some of that work is getting more people that aren't doing it to do it the new, better way. Yes, that's part of the equation, but don't miss that there might actually be something wrong or that needs to be tweaked with the new, better way. I remember a clinical improvement that I was involved with in a separate change improvement effort where indeed there were two things on that protocol that we needed to change. So it wasn't just about getting more clinicians to use the new protocol. There were actually some changes that needed to be tweaked in the protocol itself. And we could tell that after using the protocol and studying the results of the used protocol. This topic of leading change is so top of mind in my work, whether I'm working with our partner organizations as they're working to make multifaceted improvements in their organizations and people service and quality. And also as we get ready for our 13th annual Healthcare Executive Forum event in Madison coming up in June 18th and 19th on the topic of high reliability, just culture, and psychological safety. And you can imagine how much of that content for that event focuses around being successful at leading change. I just don't see how you can become a high reliable organization with top ranking award winning results and getting to the result of zero defect without having an agile culture where there's more willingness, more contributors, and less resistance and less change fatigue. These are the pathways, right? But to get there, we have to have some usable, doable, practical tactics like the ones I mentioned here today that help us as leaders, help us as teams, help us as organizations to do change well. So to recap, anticipate and uncover and prepare for resistance in the change initiative. It's going to be there in some way, shape, or form. Number two is to really emphasize a compelling why for the change, checking both the boxes of the heart and the head, the subjective and objective information related to why the new way is better than the old way. And tactic number three for today is don't skimp on that study adjust phase of change and make sure it includes understanding who's doing it or not doing it and why and the impact of that and grabbing the lessons from that that can help others continue and adopt the new change. And then to really validate, is the change getting the intended results? So if we're making the change and we're using the new, better way, is it getting us the intended positive results? And if not, is there some adjustments or tweaks that need to be made to how we're doing the new, better way? If you found this valuable today, we would just love it if you would share it with others. If there's others that you know that are championing change in their organization or in their role in their positions, and you would like to give them a gift of 3 tactics that can help them in their efforts to lead change, please spread the word by sharing the podcast. We'd appreciate that. And if you're listening to this before May 23rd, which is the deadline for the registration for the Healthcare Executive Forum, please check that out as well. There's information in the show notes, a link that can get you to more information about that event. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Culture Change RX. If you found value in today's episode and you are a believer in fostering change in healthcare, join us in making a difference. Follow, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with colleagues and your network. Together, we can make a lasting impact. Until next week, keep inspiring positive change.
We know that healthcare executives have their sights on high reliability, just culture, and psychological safety. In true capstone fashion, we're all about helping simplify the complex and helping entire healthcare organizations execute successfully on big, bold initiatives such as these. One such way that we can help is through our upcoming Healthcare Executive Forum. In its 13th year, this forum is been helping healthcare executives learn proven approaches for executing successfully on big, bold initiatives. So, whether you're just starting your journey to high reliability or well on your way, this event has something for everyone. Our time honored commitment is that every attendee leave with an actionable and impactful plan that they can just start when they get back to the office the next day. The event is on June 18th and 19th in Madison, Wisconsin, and you can go to capstoneleadership.net and under the resources page, look for the details on our upcoming events. Plan now for you and your executive team to attend.